In this episode, you'll discover why your brain is actively working against your best rowing and what to do about it.
Feel the grip of the oar handle, smooth yet firm in your hands. Taste the salt of your own sweat and the occasional splash of water. It's all part of the journey. Welcome to another episode of Faster Masters Rowing Radio. Each week, our host, Masters rowing coach Rebecca Caro, dives deep into the world of Masters rowing. Whether you're on the water or in the gym, join us to become a faster master. Let's go rowing.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back. Today, we're drawing on a quote that I found from Dr. Malcolm Howard. He was a gold medalist with the Canadian 8 in Beijing, and he said, "People say it was always so easy for you, so straightforward, but it's always been about the work. Rowing, by its nature, is a beautiful sport because you get out of it exactly what you put in. The harder I worked at rowing, the more success I had." This sounds really simple, but most masters rowers are putting in rather less than they think, believing in a ceiling that isn't real, and being stopped by your brain that pulls the alarm cord before you've anywhere reached your limit. Today, you're going to get 3 ideas that you can test in your next training week. An effort ledger that makes your real input visible, a ceiling test that separates physical limits from the stories you tell yourself about them, and the science of the repeated bout effect, which explains why doing a hard session once is enough to start retraining your brain to stop lying to you. Malcolm Howard didn't get to the Olympic podium on talent alone. He got there by showing up to the same hard work over and over until his brain learned to trust it. And that's what we're going to be doing today. So let's start by thinking about the effort ledger. This is a way of measuring whether you are paying what rowing actually costs. So the principle that Malcolm Howard identified cuts both ways. Rowing rewards work, of course, but it also exposes pretend work. Paddling that's not within the correct training zone. Doing a warm-up that's just soft and not precise and in time with the other athletes in your crew. Doing training, in inverted commas, that never gets comfortable. So some masters rowers train by feel. Your feel might be an RPE, a rate of perceived effort, but your feel and reality diverge with age. We all know aging has an impact on how we train and our physiology. But your perceived effort rises as your recovery slows. So if you're an athlete who's training 5+ times a week, the amount of recovery from one session to the next is reduced. There is not much elapsed time from one to the next. And so you're bringing tiredness into your next training session. And so your rate of perceived effort can be higher, even though your work output actually is lower. So if you train by feel, this could be something that you might want to challenge. So let's introduce this effort ledger. It's got 3 columns. In the first column, you write down what you plan to do this workout. In the middle, what you actually did. And then on the right-hand side, an honest quality rating on a score of 1 to 5, where 5 is high, perfect quality, what you planned and what you did matched exactly. Now, this isn't about adding volume to your training plan. It's not necessarily about doing more, but it's about mapping your gap between what you intended, your intent, and your execution. So, as an example, someone who thought they were training hard, but when they ran a ledger might find that they had really been performing suboptimally. When the workout says do 2 to 3 pieces, they only did 2. When the workout says do 3 15 minutes with 2 minutes rest, the rests were 3.5+ minutes. Or the last piece got cut short because they didn't want to go past the boathouse and do a little bit further and then return back. So that's the sort of thing that we're talking about here. These are possibly very small, But by writing it down, it brings a layer of honesty to your own training. And so your tryout for the week is to do an effort ledger, planned, actual, and quality score. And then at the end of the week, average your scores. And if you found that you're below 3, it may be that this is something that you need to be working on. So if your input is low, one of the reasons might be because your effort ceiling is already set. This is where some of us might be leaving more on the table than we actually think, because we have a hidden belief that our ceiling is fixed by our age. It's called a limiting belief. And this thing kicks in before your actual physical limit does. So this is about the mind working separately from the body. There has been research done on masters in endurance sports that they are far more likely to undertrain than overtrain. And this is one of the possible causes. So here's the ceiling test. Think about your training program. In fact, go and get it out, have a look at it, and pick one thing that you know you avoid. It might be a particular drill. You might hate doing square blade warm-ups. It might be a race pace piece. It might be a test. You got a test week. Did you do it? And then ask yourself, am I avoiding this because my body can't do it, or because I don't want to find out what it reveals? So that's the mental side. Now, Malcolm Howard trained in an elite program that didn't accommodate self-limiting beliefs. He had to find out where his ceiling actually was. But we have more choice and more recovery time often than professional athletes. We don't have to train full time. We're not professionals. And so the conditions to test our ceiling are actually quite good. So for yourself, have a look at one session that you know that you regularly water down, that you don't deliver in its entirety, and plan when you're going to be doing it next week. Do it exactly as hard as you've been avoiding doing it, and notice whether the ceiling's your body or whether it's the mental story that you've been telling yourself about that particular workout. However, there's a deeper reason why your brain may be setting a lower ceiling than you might think. And it's called the repeated bout effect. Your brain is lying to protect you. What we have to do now is renegotiate with our brains. So our brains aren't really a fair witness to our effort. Your brain's a survival machine. It is an important part of the amygdala. It sends the stop signal before you've reached your physical limit. It's trying to conserve resources and reserves of energy just in case you need them. And this is called something called the central governor theory by Tim Noakes. And your brain regulates your output based on your predicted cost, not your actual capacity. And so when you get the stop signal from your brain, it's a forecast, not necessarily a fact. Now, for masters, we might actually have inadvertently amplified this because our brains have years of data suggesting this hurts, and it hurts more now than it used to. And so our brain tends to pull the alarm earlier. But there is a counter mechanism that we can use to try and reset that. And it's called the repeated bout effect. So when you expose your body once to a hard effort, your brain re-anchors. It goes, oh, that was a hard effort, but I did it, because it now has real data. It's not a worst case forecast or guess. So that next time you approach that same effort level, perhaps in the exact same workout, your alarm will trip off later because you know you've already done that. It's like being in the weights room. If you're doing deadlifts and you hit a maximum and you're doing 5 lifts and you know what that number was, then the next time you come to the gym, you can do that number and maybe do that one set earlier, and then you might be able to add a little more weight for a final set. So perceived difficulty in your muscle soreness and the urge to stop reduce significantly on the second exposure to the exact same stimulus. And your body adapts, but also importantly, it's your brain, the brain's prediction model that really does the adaptation. So think about your hard piece that we talked about earlier. You're going to do a high quality, hard workout that previously you might have skipped. The first time you do it, it might feel like a 9 out of 10 in terms of effort. But by the time you do it the third time, same piece, same power, same training load, it might now feel more like a 7 out of 10. So your ceiling didn't drop, but your brain learned what surviving this particular workout actually looks like. And that's the physiological underpinning of everything that Malcolm Howard said. The work doesn't just build the engine, it teaches the brain what the engine can do. And so that's why I'd like us to think more about Malcolm Howard and the repeated bout effect and how it's really going to be affecting you. So take your piece, repeat it, same session, same target, log your perceived effort, which you might want to do on a 1 to 10 this time, and see if you can notice that number falling. Remember, if you're doing the Faster Masters training program, we repeat the same workouts from 1 week to another. Sometimes in a month, we have something that you do on weeks 1 and 3 and something different that you do on weeks 2 and 4. But this is deliberate. It's designed to familiarize you with the workout, but also to help you to work through your repeated bout effect so that you know exactly what you're trying to get out of each session. So you've got now a 3-layer synthesis. Your ledger shows what you put in, your ceiling test shows what's still available, and the repeated bout effect shows why doing it once is enough to start retraining your brain. Malcolm Howard overcame his brain's self-preservation instinct through repetition, and his brain learned to trust the effort because he kept showing up to the same effort each time. So have a go, share what you have tried, and remember, as Malcolm Howard said, people say it was so easy for you, so straightforward, but it's always been about the work. Rowing, by its nature, is a beautiful sport because you get out of it exactly what you put in. The harder I worked at rowing, the more success I had. Till next time.
We are part of the Rowing Chat Podcast Network. Please tell your fellow rowers about the show. If you've learned just one helpful thing from today's episode, please consider supporting the show for as little as $1 per month by visiting fastermastersrowing.com/podcast.